Good morning, everybody. We can start here in 2 minutes. Get started in 2 minutes. Good morning, everybody. We can start here in just a couple minutes. Good morning, everybody. We can start here in about 90 seconds. Good morning, everybody. We can start here in a little bit less than a minute. Good morning, everybody. We can start here in like a little over 30 seconds. Good morning, everybody. We can start here in just a few seconds. Give the time for the last people to dial in. Okay, we'll get started. The first thing I want to talk about is the modern world has finally become too complex for any of us to understand. Vast systems from automated supply chains to high-frequency trading now undergird our daily lives. We're losing control of them. So I'm gonna do a lot of reading here for the next 5 minutes or so, but there's a method to my madness. So as I'm reading this, think about, why is Mike reading all of this verbiage? What is the point of this? So it says, I'm here to tell you that the reason so much of the world seems incomprehensible is that it is incomprehensible. From social media, the global economy, the supply chains, our lives rest precariously on systems that have become too complex. We've yielded so much of it to technology and autonomous actors that no one totally comprehends at all. And think about that, guys. I mean, I just think about that not 2 minutes ago when I got a new phone, put my earbuds in, and the AirPods work perfectly with the phone, just like that. Or I'm updating my computer, and it can be done in like 2 minutes and moves all of my stuff from one computer to another. I mean, the things that are happening around us, are they easy to understand, or is it almost like magic and we just take it for granted? So do you guys understand everything and all the technology and all the systems, how everything's working around you? Or does it almost seem like magic? Most of us do not spend a lot of time thinking about the huge, complex systems that keep our technology-dependent society running. And for very good reason. It takes a certain amount of faith and belief in ourselves and capitalism and the digital platforms that mediate our decisions and interactions with it, and an infrastructure that support all of the above. In order to wake up and get through every day, but eating breakfast, pulling on our business casual Zoom appropriate shirts, all those mundane acts are made possible by an almost unfathomably complex, algorithmic, calibrated, partly automated, and partly sweatshop labor dependent global supply chain. Just as vast and complex and intrinsically linked to the supply chain is another sprawling but almost invisible system, the global financial markets. It's a vast, highly technologized network of linking banks, government agencies, hedge funds, regulatory bodies, stock markets, dark pools, exchanges, news services, and millions of individual human traders and analysts. It has grown to a level of complexity that makes it unknowable by any single human intelligence. Everything moves at far too great a speed and scale. So what we've ended up with is civilization built on the constant flow of physical goods, capital, data, and networks that we've built that manage those flows in the most efficient way to have become so vast and complex that they're now beyond the scale of any single and arguably any group or team of human understanding. It's tempting to think of these networks as huge organisms with tentacles spanning the globe that touch everything and interlink with one another, but I'm not sure the metaphor is apt. An organism suggests that there's some form of centralized intelligence, a nervous system, that the brain at its center, processing the data through the feedback loops and making decisions. But the reality with these networks is much closer to the concept of distributed intelligence or distributed knowledge, where many different agencies with limited information beyond their immediate environment interact in ways that lead to decision making, often without them knowing what they're doing. Guys, in today's world, do the people making the decisions understand how things work in today's world? Not even close, right, Tom? Right, Dale. Firstly, and most obviously, parts of all these systems can simply fail. As we all know, the more complicated something is, the more things that can go wrong. We've had a few opportunities recently to see examples of this happening. Supply chains under COVID-19, leading to everything from toilet paper to protective masks to flour being unavailable. The fallout of COVID has been even more devastating to the global economy. And guys, have things gotten more complicated or less complicated since COVID? More complicated or less complicated in the world since COVID? Yes, much more. Although we've seen these markets come to collapse without the help of global disasters such as the 2008 financial crisis, and the internet is certainly prone to failures, perhaps most directly illustrated by the WannaCry ransom attack in 2017. Everybody here heard what happened here in Minnesota at St. Paul. What happened in St. Paul this last week, or last 2 weeks, as a matter of fact? A whole city. Hackers have shut down a whole city for more than 2 weeks, and they're still not even close to cleaning it up. So things, I mean, it's crazy that I'm going to try to. What's worrying is that while none of these were catastrophic failures and the networks eventually recovered, in some cases it took years of expert analysis and debate to work out what actually went wrong, exactly because of how complex these systems are to understand. So we just got one more slide here, guys. Ceding control to the vast unaccountable networks not only risks those networks to going off the rails, it also threatens democracy itself. If we are struggling to understand or influence anything more than very small parts of them, this is also increasingly true for politicians and world leaders. Likely the captain of the container ship, politicians and voters have less and less control over how these networks run. Instead, they find themselves merely managing very small parts of them, and they certainly don't seem to be able to make drastic changes to those networks, which are mainly owned by private corporations and industries. Guys, just since COVID, in the last 5 years, has the world become more diverse, or are fewer and fewer people controlling more and more of the world? Guys, eight men own more than 90% of the world's population. 8 men own more than 90% of the world's population. Is that dangerous or is that not dangerous? Yeah, it's crazy, Mark. It's beyond crazy. To paraphrase filmmaker Adam Kurz, instead of electing visionary leaders, we are in fact just voting for middle managers in a complex global system that nobody fully controls. So guys, the reason, I'm going to go back here one. Why am I pointing this out? Give me some comments. I want to take a couple of minutes here. Why did I go through boring you to death by reading all of this? What's my point here? Concentration risk. Yep, I agree. I agree with that. Concentration risk. Why else? What is the theme that's been repeated over and over and over throughout this? Well, so I agree. We got concentration risk, abdicating a daily control of our lives, absolutely. Argument for AI. It could be an argument for or against AI. The real point I'm making here is this, is that does anybody really know how all these things are connected? If not, can anybody really predict what's going to happen tomorrow? Is anybody really got their thumb on the pulse of what's going to happen tomorrow? If one of these, if you have a $10,000 watch and one tiny little part breaks, what's that $10,000 watch worth? Nothing. So there are so many systems that are all interlocked. There is no one central. That's right. The whole butterfly flaps its wings event. Yeah. So there are so many systems all interlocked without any one controlling factor. So how many then pressure points or danger points do we have in our system right now? A lot or little? So what should you be doing for your clients? We don't know what's gonna come out of left field, and any one of these things can cause a complete meltdown of the entire system because the world is so complex. So how diverse should your clients be? Now, remember my analogy or metaphor for diverse. Don't keep all of your eggs in one basket. So if you have a whole bunch of funds, you have a whole bunch of baskets, right? If you have a whole bunch of funds, and each of the funds own multitudes of stocks in them, you have a bunch of baskets, right? So are you diverse if you do that? You have a bunch of funds, a bunch of different stocks, a bunch of different bonds. Are you diverse? Are you diverse? What's the metaphor I use for this? Having a bunch of different stocks or mutual funds or money managers. If you have all those different baskets and you put them in the back of your pickup truck and you hit a pothole, what's going to happen to every single one of those baskets? What's going to happen to every single one of those baskets, as in what happened in 2008? And guys, are things more dangerous or precarious or complicated now than they were in 2008? Yes, they are. So if you hit a pothole, what's going to happen to all those baskets in the back of your pickup truck? They're all going to have a catastrophe. All the eggs are going to break in there. So what is true diversification? Because how many of the different asset classes went down in 2008? How many different asset classes went down in 2008? Tom and Mark got it. Yeah, they all did. They all did. So what's true diversification? It's something that I've been advocating for 27 years to myself and 25 years to you guys. What is true diversification? Having money in growth and having money in what? Capital preservation. How many annuities went down in 2008? How many annuities went down in 2000, 2001? Guys, your clients are looking at these markets and saying, let's go. Let's put more into the market. You gotta get them to realize that now is not the time to be in the market. Now is the time to be pulling back into a more diverse portfolio. And by diverse, I mean more guaranteed stuff. And remember, when we looked at how much you should have for the optimum portfolio, if you've got 25 to 30 years of retirement, for the optimum portfolio, to make sure you do not run out of money, how much should you have stocks at this point? For a 25 to 30 year retirement, optimum portfolio, make sure you don't run out of money. How much should you have in stocks at this point? 20 to 30%. 20 to 30% in stocks. And then what do you do over every single year going forward? So you got that, Dale. What do you do then over the next every single year going forward? Yeah, you keep adding more back into the market. So if you move big chunks of your clients' monies into FIAs now, and then just use the free withdrawal to move it back into the market, how happy are your clients going to be if there's a crash? How happy are your clients going to be if there's no crash and the market keeps going up? Would your clients be sad with the way that FIAs are? We have FIAs with trigger points and lock-ins of participation rates, etc. Are your clients going to be sad if they're in a big chunk of the money's in FIAs and in the market? No. If the market goes up, they're not going to be sad. If the market goes down, they're going to be ecstatic. Now, if you leave it with large chunks of money in the money managers and not very much in the FIAs, and the market goes up, are they going to be happy? Yeah, they're going to be happy, but they're going to be no more happy. Guys, they will be no more happy if they have all their money in money management and the market goes up than they would be if they had a big chunk of their money in FIAs and a smaller chunk in money management get up. There would be zero difference in their happiness level. But if the market crashes, and it will, I don't know when, but it will. If you don't believe that, you shouldn't be a financial advisor. It will. And will your clients be happier than if they have a big chunk of their money in FIAs, and a smaller chunk of money management, or all their money in money management? Does that make sense? because there ain't nobody smart enough to understand what's going on in the world today. So William Feather, one of the funny things about the stock market is that every time one person buys, another one sells, but they both think they're what? Geniuses. I sold at the right time. No, I bought at the right time. One of them's going to be wrong. It's never the same one. That make sense? Great. So I wanted to go through this today because this is alarming. And the fact that it's alarming is I've gone through this about every 3 or 4 years and shown you this. And it has not changed. Americans flunk retirement literacy quiz. Here's why it matters. Retirement know-how falls short for many Americans, the new report finds. Most American adults are stumped by basic, not complicated, basic retirement-related questions. That's according to a new report from TI Institute and the Global Financial Literacy Excellence Center at George Washington University School of Business. Most quiz respondents bombed big time when posed with just 6 questions related to Social Security benefits, Medicare coverage, employment-based retirement savings, ensuring lifetime income, and life expectancy in retirement. On average, they answered 2 out of 6 questions correctly. Just 2 out of 6. And these are not hard questions. But is this surprising? Decisions concerning Social Security and Medicare are not that simple and require people to collect quite a bit of information to develop a plan. For many people, Social Security and Medicare are not enough. This is why it's so alarming to see the knowledge of these institutions' work is so limited. So here's the thing. Has the financial literacy gotten better? U.S. adults have correctly answered only about one half of the PFIN index questions each year. Look at with all of the information out there, with the internet, with AI, with all the shows, with all the magazines, with all the blogs, with all the newsletters, has American society, has the layperson gotten any smarter when it comes to finances? There's more information out there than there's ever been before. They have their access to unbelievable information that people would have killed for. I mean, actually killed for in the 1960s or 70s. Yeah, access to information does not equal wisdom. Exactly right. So they're not getting any smarter. Distribution of correct answers. So you can see that hasn't changed at all. People who have gotten 76 to 100% right has basically not changed. Functional knowledge. So here's people answer correctly. So when it came to borrowing, 60 to 61 they've gotten actually dumber, right? in the last 8 years, they've gotten dumber. But borrowing is still where they have the most correct answers. Why is that? Because many people have borrowed money for cars, for furniture, or whatever. But still, it's 60%, a great number when it comes to understanding simple questions about borrowing. Savings. They have gotten smarter about savings, but again, not markedly so. Consuming. Gotten dumber when it comes to consuming. Earning. Same old, same old. Go-to info, finding better. Guys, there's more information than that's ever been available by a little or by a lot, even in the last 5 years, or last 8 years. How much information is available today in 2025 compared to 2017? And yet, have they gotten any better at knowing where to go for information? No. I mean, is this alarming to you? Well, I agree. It's overwhelming. Yeah. Investing, haven't gotten any better. Insurance, gotten worse. Comprehending risk, gotten worse. Why? Why have they gotten worse from 2017 to 2025 at comprehending risk? Why? What's happened to the economy and the market in the last 8 years? Recency bias, right, Tom? Because what's happened to the market and to the economy in the last 8 years? Has there been a recession in the last 8 years? Even during COVID, was there a recession? You could argue there's a recession, but then the government sent out checks to everybody. So did anybody really even feel the pain of the COVID financially? Some people did, but did most? Yes, up, 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 up. Everything's up. Economy's up, market's up. What's going to happen when only a third of the people understand risk? Does that add or lessen the risk that we have around us today? If you're on a boat and only a third of the people understand the risk of being in the middle of the ocean on a boat, is that a place that you want to be? If you're in a spaceship and there's only a third of the people understand the risk that you're in, do you want to be on that spaceship? I don't want to be in a theater. I don't want to be anywhere in a concert if only a third of the people understand the risk that's entailed, because that is a disaster waiting to happen. Okay, so let's talk about who's the smartest. Well, obviously, the boomers are the smartest, right? Silent generation, boomers. They've lived through an awful lot. So they had the least amount of wrong answers. But were they fabulously intelligent when it came to these are not complicated questions. These are simple questions. Are they vastly superior when it comes to these questions? No, they are a bit better, but 55% of right is not great. It's not great. So 20% of them got a score of 76 to 100%. That's not very good. 42% got a score of only 51 to 75% of the questions correctly. Does this make you think that boomers have it all together when it comes to financial knowledge? The average was 2.2 questions out of 6. That's crazy. Likelihood of need, and here's where percentage correctly answering retirement-related questions. Only 22% understood the likelihood of needing long-term care. 75% did not understand that. Medicare coverage, 75% did not understand that. Life expectancy in retirement, 2/3 didn't understand that. Social Security benefits, 60% didn't understand that. Employment-based retirement savings, 55% didn't understand that. Ensuring lifetime income, half of the people don't understand that. So I'm just going to run you through just 5 of these. I think it was a 20 or 30 question financial literacy quiz. But I'm just running you through 5 of the questions. Okay, these are the questions that they could not answer. Are you financially literate? See if you can answer the 3 of the 5 multiple choice questions below. In the U.S., 43% of those surveys could not correctly answer 3 out of 5. In the U.S., 43% could not answer 3 out of 5. So tell me if you think these are complicated questions. Suppose you have some money. Is it safer to put the money into one business or investment, or to put it into multiple businesses or investment? One investment, A. Multiple businesses or multiple investments, B. I don't know or refuse the answer. So you put down what your answer is there. Suppose over the next 10 years, the prices of things you buy double. If your income also doubles, will you be able to buy less than you can buy today, the same amount as you can buy today, or more than you can buy today? Prices double, your income doubles. Will you be able to buy less, the same, or more 10 years from now? Well, less, the same, more, don't know, refuse the answer. Suppose you need to borrow $100 US dollars. Which is the lower amount to pay back? $105 US dollars or $100 US dollars plus 3%? Answers: $105, $100 plus 3%. Don't know, refuse the answer. Suppose you put money in the bank for 2 years and the bank agrees to add 15% per year to your account. Will the bank add more money to your account the second year than it did the first year? Or will it add the same amount to your account both years? More, the same, don't know. So if they agree to pay 15% per year to your account, will the bank add more money each year or the same amount each year? Suppose you had $100 US dollars in a savings account and the bank adds 10% per year to the account. How much money would you have at the end of 5 years? if you did not remove any from money from the account? Would you have more than $150? Exactly $150? Less than $150? Don't know, refuse to answer. So guys, are those complicated questions? Are they complicated questions? So what does that mean? Why did I show you? What does that mean if the vast majority of people you're working with can't even answer questions like that? What's our job? Can they make good decisions if they do not understand basics like that? Now, how many of your clients, if you do the 21-point checklist correctly, checklist correctly, will be much more up to speed with how things work than before they sat and before that hour and a half started? When we ask open-ended questions and make sure the client understands everything they're going through, they're going to be much more informed. Now, here's the question. Do you think informed clients are easier to work with, or uninformed clients are easier to work with? Informed or uninformed? See, salespeople think uninformed clients are easier to work with because they can pull something over on them. I've always been of the belief that the smarter a client is, the easier it is to work with them. Why? Because are we selling ice cubes to Eskimos, guys? Is the 5Q process, the 20-point checklist, is it the FIA presentation, is it about selling ice cubes to Eskimos? No, the whole process is to what? Ask open-ended questions so that the client can understand what's going on. And when the client understands what's going on, do they make good decisions? Yes, they do. It's just that in the U.S. and actually in the world, we've done a very poor job of educating people on finances. Because guys, were those questions complicated? No. Were they difficult? No. And yet people can't answer those questions. But that's why I think what you're doing with the 21-point checklist is so important, with motivational interviewing is so important. People actually get what we're explaining to them. They're not just believing you. They understand it, and they're making their own decisions. And that's why in the last 2 years I was in practice, I had only one person that signed paperwork that changed their mind. So out of the 200 people that I brought on, plus, I had only, in those 2 years, I had only one person sign paperwork and change their mind, and it was because their spouse had died. It's because their spouse had died and they were going to be moving. That's the only reason. Why? Why did people not change their minds? Because I never sold anything. They sold themselves. Does that make sense? So what is my point with this? My point is, your competitors, how good a job are they doing at educating their clients? Are they doing a fantastic job? Obviously not, because people are no smarter now than they were 8 years ago. So how much of an opportunity does that give you? It gives you a huge opportunity if you do what? First of all, market to get in front of them. Second of all, learn the 5Q process. Learn the 21-point checklist scripts. Learn the FIA script. Make sense? So does this alarm you? I mean, does this alarm you that people could not answer these questions in the U.S.? I mean, it alarms me. Because, again, if they can't answer these simple questions, does that make... My whole point of this call is that we're in that shed with all that 100 years worth of old newspapers, straw, old insulation, and a gas can. Do we know when the shed is going to burn down? No. But what do we know? If it's an old wooden shed full of old dusty newspapers, old insulation, and a gas can, what do we know? Is the risk high or the risk low? Would any insurance company want to insure that shed? No. So please, please, please do your. Here's a funny thing. I sat down with my I went to a party and I ran into a gal who I had not seen in 15 years, and she was my wife's friend. And in 2000, she was working at the Mayo Clinic, and her dad was the CEO of Kodak. Her dad was the CEO of Kodak, and she asked me, and he gave her like millions as a gift, and she wanted to know my opinion of what to do with it. In 2000, guess what I told her to do with it? I mean, all the indicators, all the lights were flashing red, 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 yellow, yellow, yellow. I said, just sit on it. There will be a better time to invest in right now. You can get, at that point, you get 5% on your interest on your money. Just put 5%, put it at 5%. Don't worry about the market. But again, the market has just done what for the last 3 years? So people are convinced that, oh, it's going to go on further. And she said, and I didn't know this because I didn't want to take her on as a client because she was a friend of my wife. But she was asking my opinion. I said, hey, don't put it in the market. Sit on the sidelines. There'd be a better time to invest in 2000. And so she had never told me this for 25 years. And at the party here last week, she said, I want to thank, she goes, I want to thank you, but also want to tell you how much you have could have affected my life. You told me not to put money into the market in 2000. You told me not to put money into the market in 2000. But my father had just gifted me that money, and he, CEO of Kodak, well, you know what happened to Kodak. The CEO of Kodak said, you need to put this money in the market. And she goes, I believe my father, because, he gave me the money. He said that I should put the money in the market, and I put the money in the market. If I would have believed you, Mike, my life would have been totally different. If I had not, because she ended up losing half her money, and it took over a decade to get that money back. She said, I could have retired way earlier. I could have been, my life would have changed if I had believed you, if I'd been more conservative. But I believed the market was going to go on forever. My dad told me it was, so I believed him. Guys, will your clients ever have conversations like that if you just put them in the market? How many of you are thanked? How many of your clients thank you for what's happened over the last 7-8 years for the market going up? Do you ever get thanked for that? I never did. When the market I never did. But you know what? When the market went down, if I had money in the market for my clients, did I get blamed for that? Yes. The problem is, how many advisors have had to suffer through that in the last 8, 9, 10, 15 years? For more than a month or two. Because when the market has dipped, it's only gone down for a month or two. But as we've seen in the last 100 years of history, 150 years of the market goes up for 10, 15, 20 years, then it goes sideways for 10 years. It goes up for 10, 5, and then it goes sideways for 5, 7 years. Have we had one of those 5, 7 year, 10-year slides at this point? We have not. And boy, you do not want to be around for that. You do not want to be around for that. Make sense? So thanks for joining the call. I will, in fact, Jerry will be talking to you next Monday. I appreciate all you guys. And again, I just view it as I know that I'm negative Nelly sometimes. This weekend, and last week a little bit too, I was yelling at you guys, but I'm doing it to shake you from the euphoria that too many people have right now with the market and the economy. And guys, are we starting to see some cracks in the economy too? I've seen over and over and over in many academic and people that I trust who have no vested interest. They have not in the stock market, but they're economists that have said, we're on the verge of a recession. And I tend to believe them when you look at the jobs reports, because firing somebody doesn't mean that the reports are going to suddenly change. People are not hiring. Do any of you, I'm just going to go to this. Do any of you have adult children who are looking for jobs or have friends looking for jobs? Is anybody hiring right now? Anybody other than anybody other than minimum wage? Are the big wage jobs hiring right now? Or are they letting people go? That's right, Mark. Yeah, AI is taking this. Things are not good right now. Oh, here's another thing I didn't tell you or didn't bring up. Where are we for credit card, the amount of money in credit cards right now? Where are we for the amount of money in credit cards right now? Yeah, it's set another record for how much money is on credit cards. People can't afford to buy cars. Their credit cards are off the charts. People aren't getting high-paying jobs anymore. That's dried up. So right now is not the time to be investing in the market, guys. Right now it's time to be pulling back, especially when you have such a great tool as in the FIA. Make sense? Awesome. You guys have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks. Thanks. Bye.